The rules at Queen's Park have been very explicit. MPPs who want to participate in debates must use one of Canada's two official languages, English or French. Despite the fact Indigenous people have been here for 10,000 years, it was actually against the rules for any Indigenous language to be used during proceedings at Queen's Park. When New Democrat MPP Sol Mamakwa brought that to the attention of the government House Leader Paul Calandra, Calandra agreed that made no sense at all. So both men worked to change a century-and-a-half-long practice. The first question ever asked by an MPP in neither English nor French happened this past Tuesday at Queen's Park. This is what part of Hansard, of course, is the written record of every word that is spoken in that chamber, looks like for last Tuesday. That is not English, that is not French. That is Sol Mamakwa's native language, which we would translate in English to Oji-Cree. This was a pretty cool historic week at Queen's Park, I gotta say.
It was. And, this is obviously symbolic in some sense, but I do want to say it's not just symbolism. The written record at the legislature matters. And until this week, only English and French were afforded the legislative privilege of being part of the record. So while the changes this week, they don't end boil water advisories. They don't end any of the other disparities in treatment between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in Canada or in Ontario. It is also not trivial, and so I think it is worth praising the people who made it happen.
Yeah, Sol Mamakwa has said in the past that when he walks into the Ontario legislature, he feels like he is in a colonial presence, right? Like this is a form of government with which his people have had significant problems over the years.
Yes.
And yet he is expected to go there, represent constituents, and do it in a place where he feels like he's not welcome. And to his credit, Paul Calandra from the government side recognized the difficulty of that, and they worked it out so that this new development could happen. And Mamakwa said this past week that for the first time ever, he kind of felt at home speaking his own language at Queen's Park. That's a beautiful thing.
One of the backstory bits that I did like was when Mamakwa first went to Calandra and they were chatting about this, and he says, well, no, I'm not allowed to speak my language. And Calandra didn't believe him at first. He was like, no, of course you can. And he was like, no, I assure you I cannot. And once it sunk in, Calandra seems to have moved relatively briskly to make these changes happen.